Most of the time we see things go wrong very, very early on in the golf swing. And that doesn't even mean in terms of moving parts. The setup and the body alignments are hugely important even before we start taking that golf club away, because it sets you up into a really good position to make repeatable, consistent sound movements. A really common fault we tend to see in terms of the amateur player is their body lines and how they align. They tend to get their feet pretty parallel with where they are intending to go, but their knees, their hips, their shoulder lines get a little bit offline. We tend to see it going left quite a lot. Now, I think this is because there's a lot of tension and how they fold this right arm at address. If you looked at our gear system, what we tend to see with the professional is at address, their right arm has about 15 degrees of elbow bend. Okay, now what that does, that puts them into a nice neutral position initially with their scapula and their right arm not too tense, not too tight, not too sort of pushed out in front of them, forcing the left shoulder back and open. Whereas the amateur, we see this right arm, right elbow really locked, really straight, grip tension really aggressive. Now what this does is it opens the shoulder line straight away. So straight away, they're behind the 8-ball. They can't fold that elbow properly. The elbow and the arm stays very, very locked for a long time initially. Then it has a big collapse and a big fold later on. Hence, we see no stability. We see a long and loose, narrow position at the top, which makes it very difficult for them to transition properly, to create any power. In the professional, we see a much more gradual bending of that right arm. So they start with 15 degrees of bend. They will gradually increase that bend on the way up, okay? Now what that does, that allows them to create some width and maintain some width. So the amateur starts with the right arm locked and then has a massive collapse at the top. So they're going from like a 0 bend to a 100-degree bend in very little time, whereas the professional will start at 15, will gradually increase that bend, but their sort of cut-off point tends to be about 90 degrees. We tend to see most tour pros much wider than the amateur golfer. So that's creating them more width, more speed. It allows them to shallow the golf club properly. It allows them to maintain the lead wrist angle from the top into the downswing. It just gives them a much better chance of making consistent contact. If you looked at our gear system, you can see the big difference between the amateur and the pro. Like I said, it is a much more of a gradual bending of that trail arm as opposed to a locked out trail arm into a massive collapse. So who would have thought a armband or an infant's armband would be good for golf? Well, this is a very, very good tool for someone who overflexes their trail elbow. So you want to blow it up nice and tight, okay? You want to start with the elbow slightly flexed. Now, what will happen is as you start to take that up, as you start to feel you're pressuring into that armband, you know you're getting close to the amount of right arm bend that you need. Ideally, we create and keep some width in that armband so we're not over-pressuring. If I tend to overpressure it and it feels like it's going to pop, then chances are that the right arm has collapsed to the top. We're narrow, we're in a poor spot here. The only action we can make is a casting action on the way down. We want to keep some width to that armband. We don't want that armband over-pressuring, over-squeezing. This allows me to reconnect my right arm to my right chest on the way down and throw my arms down to the golf ball. Massive power, massive consistency.